an open source, multi-chain, self-custody crypto platform enabling billions of people to achieve financial sovereignty. I love that so much. Again, while we wait for the room to fill up, please feel free to tweet the link for the event, invite some friends, colleagues, whatever. But yeah, Shapeshift is awesome. They've been around for a really long time too. And I already know a bit about them, and probably some of you guys do too, but I am super pumped to learn even more because I'm sure they've done a ton since the last time I've spoken to them. So for anyone, oh, I see the Brave account is here. I think that's Pete. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, Pete. Or Brave. Everyone wave to the Brave account. Anyways, okay, so what was that?
Well, it's the sound a lion would make.
I love it. Okay, so just a quick intro for anyone visiting from outside of the BAT community today. Welcome. We are the Basic Attention Token community. For some quick background, Basic Attention Token, or BAT, is an Ethereum-based utility and rewards token in a blockchain-based, privacy-respecting advertising platform piloted by Brave. You can think of BAT as a unit of account between users, publishers, and advertisers, who Brave considers to be the three main participants on the web. BAT can be used to support your favorite content creators, digital publishers, or even nonprofits and causes through what we call tips, or an automatic automatic monthly donations via a Patreon-style contribution system built natively into the Brave browser. You can also use BAT to transact in crypto, of course, trade NFTs, make purchases in several blockchain-based games from our partners, and even more. Brave is a fast and secure web browser that blocks creepy third-party ads, including ads on YouTube, maybe the most exciting thing, and trackers by default. Instead, it enables users to earn tokens, BAT tokens, or just BAT. It's redundant to say BAT tokens, but I always say that, just BAT, by choosing to see ads that are privacy respecting. And in addition to all of that, the Brave browser ships with a private search engine called Brave Search, which uses its own index, and Brave Wallet, which is a user-friendly, native, multi-chain crypto wallet that doesn't require a browser extension like other hot wallets. Think MetaMask, think Phantom. In addition, the wallet comes preloaded with support for multiple crypto networks and currently offers dApp support for Ethereum and EVM compatible ecosystems, and as of pretty recently, Solana as well. I definitely recommend that everybody stay in touch with us. If you're new here after the spaces, please check out our official websites. We've got brave.com for the Brave browser, and we have basicattentiontoken.org for the BAT. We also invite you to join our weekly BAT community calls hosted by Luke Malks, who's our VP of BizDev and Growth. Those happen every Tuesday. We tweet the link out from the BAT community account, so be sure to follow us if you want to hop into that. Everybody's invited. And lastly, certainly hop into our Discord if you aren't already there. Super easy link. It's discord.gg/BAT Brigade, and we'll pin it to the top of the spaces here, so you'll know where to find it, if anything. I think we also have a really cool PO-app today designed by Guilherme, who's in the house, but I'll let Drew talk a little bit about that, and Guilherme as well. Before we get there, though, I'll just introduce myself quickly while I have the mic. My name is Jenny. I'm speaking today from the BAT community account. If you want to keep up with me on Twitter, I'm BAT_Jenny, BAT_JENNIE. And I'll be facilitating the spaces today alongside my lovely team, who we'll meet in just a moment. I am Director of Community and Partnerships here at BAT and Brave. I am based in Montreal, Canada, and I've been working for Brave since early 2018-ish, after being an active member of the community since 2017, before the BAT token even launched. You can reach out to me about anything at all, community-related, partnership-related, project collaborations, Brave Wallet integrations, social events, anything really. My DMs are always open, so feel free to reach out anytime. If you ping me during the spaces, I probably won't see, but I will definitely hop through my DMs afterwards. So yeah, just so you know. If you message me during the spaces, I probably won't see it, but any other time, I'm checking. And from the BAT community team today, we also have Drew, we have BATearn, we have Guilherme, we have Paula, and we have Parker. We've got a full panel today. So we're going to go around quickly, introduce the BAT team, and then we'll introduce our wonderful guest from ShapeShift. So maybe, Drew, you can kick us off.
Hey everybody, I'm Drew, and yeah, I help run the Bat Brigade Discord server that Jenny mentioned. Big fan of Shapeshift. I've had a Shapeshift account for probably 3 or so years, so I'm excited for this one. I got my airdrop, I think those Foxy tokens or whatever it is. So actually, it's been a while since I've been on there, so I need to get back on. But looking forward to this space and glad you guys are here. Also, for anybody in the space, you can go to the Discord, Bat Brigade Discord server to claim the POAP that Guilherme so kindly and graciously designed for us, and you can claim that in the Discord server during the call. So thanks.
Heck yeah, thanks, Drew. And yeah, Guilherme designs a custom POAP every time we do a spaces. He hand draws them. So they're really cool, nice collectible little items. And if you want it, like Drew said, hop into our Discord and you can collect it there. On that note, Guilherme, you want to say hello?
Hello everyone, I'm Guilherme. I do design and illustration at Brave and work in community growth in this department.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, he's underselling himself. Definitely follow him on Twitter to see his art. Currently, he's working on a campaign called Inktober, which is, I think it's like for the broader art community, where, you know, every October, this account releases like a daily prompt, and then artists from all over the world will draw an image that based on the prompt, and Guilherme is doing Bat and Brave themed prompts for every day of Inktober, and his pieces are all so amazing. So definitely check out his Twitter, follow him.
Thank you, Jenny.
Of course, I have, you know, gotta big up my team here. Okay, let's see. We also have BATearn.
Hello, I'm BATearn and I do running gags.
He does a lot more than that. He also leads the Bat Ambassadors program and so much more. He's great. But yeah, BATearn, thank you so much for the intro. And then we also have Paula and Parker. Paula, you want to take it away?
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you all twice this week, actually. I hope that you're having a lovely day. Paula. I'm based in Costa Rica. Well, I do community management for the BAT Costa Rica account here in Brave. Like always, you're very welcome to join. I also do some partnerships with Jenny and the team, so feel free to reach out anytime if you would like to collab for English or Spanish. And of course, welcome Willy and Jon. And I also see H Payne in the audience, so welcome you too. We are very excited to have you here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paula. And yes, we're certainly super excited to have ShapeShift here. And then last but not least, from our team, we have Parker as well.
Hey there. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Parker. I mostly do, I manage some servers. I do some web stuff, working on putting up a wiki, weekly update articles, mostly web stuff, that kind of thing. But anyways, it's a pleasure to meet you all.
Woohoo! Thank you so much, team. And of course, we have the guests from ShapeShift. We have Willy and we have Jon in the house. So Willy and Jon, would you like to each introduce yourselves, share a bit about your backgrounds maybe, and then tell us about your roles at ShapeShift? What do you guys do?
Sure. I'll start. GM, everybody. My name's Willy. I first started at Centralized Shapeshift back in 2018. I was on the product team. Big fan of Brave, by the way. It's my favorite browser, and I've been holding BAT since it was first listed on Shapeshift, I think back in 2018. Since the decentralization, I'm now just a community member for the DAO, and I have a role as head of decentralization for the Fox Foundation, which is a not-for-profit entity set up to support the DAO in achieving full decentralization. So we're maintaining some of the legacy centralized Shapeshift infrastructure while also supporting the DAO and developing decentralized alternatives. So eventually the foundation can go away and we can hand over complete control of the whole Shapeshift ecosystem to the Fox token holders. I'll pass it to Jon.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jon. I am the co-founder of ShapeShift, the original ShapeShift with Eric Voorhees. So helped build the original ShapeShift back in 2014. Been in the crypto space since about 2011, 2012. And I used to be the chief operations officer and the chief product officer at ShapeShift until the decentralization about a year and a half ago now. So now I'm just a community member, and I hang out, help people like Willy and others in the DAO as much as I can, but I don't have any actually formal role in the organization anymore, but just a community member.
Hey, that is awesome. Don't undersell yourselves as just community members. It sounds like you both do a ton and have done a ton for the project over the years. So, we'll all give you the credit that you won't give yourselves, but welcome. We're super happy to have you guys. Love the backgrounds. Love to hear that you're longtime fans of Brave as well. Always super cool. Let's dive into the questions, shall we? Actually, before we do, I just wanted to quickly say that I recall that my first meeting with Shapeshift was, I think, in 2019. So you both would have been around already. I met Cam. Is he still with Shapeshift?
Yeah, unfortunately not. Cam goes way back with Willy. So we in 2018, or I think was when we acquired Bitfact. Willy, is that right? Remind me if I'm getting that date wrong.
Yeah, that's right. It feels
So
like
Willy and Cam started a company called Bitfact that actually used the ShapeShift API, and then we ended up acquiring them, and they came onto the ShapeShift team. So Cam was with us for a while, but unfortunately he's no longer with ShapeShift, but still part of the Fox community and a big supporter.
That's good to hear. Yeah, so I met Cam, and I think we were introduced because Shapeshift had wanted to run a private ad campaign in Brave, and I was assisting with ad sales at the time. This was like back when we first launched the ad platform, and we didn't even really have a full sales team yet. So I was sort of helping out with that. And I think at the time, if I recall correctly, it was a while ago though, but I think some kind of partnership was formed, or at least alliance between Brave and Shapeshift, because this morning, I was browsing Shapeshift's Crypto 101 learning portal, just a section on your website, which is loaded with guides on, how to get started in crypto, how to avoid phishing scams, how to get the most out of your crypto investments, et cetera, et cetera. And I noticed that Shapeshift did a whole post on the Brave browser back in 2020. And you were promoting using the Shapeshift web app through Brave. And I'd forgotten all about that and was pleased to see it. So anyway, it's just, not a question, but I just wanted to share that bit of history. Brave and Shapeshift do go back a little bit, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We were always a big supporter of Brave and of basically, more private ways to use the web. I mean, part of Shapeshift's kind of underlying philosophy, which certainly went back to the company, but I think still exists in the DAO today, is really one of self custody and privacy and giving people the tools to empower that. So we always saw Brave, I think, as an ally in that fight since ever you guys started getting into crypto.
Lion and Fox friends. Plus, I'm realizing now that the logos kind of look similar. So definitely lots of strong alignment between Shapeshift and Brave.
It's true. They look like they could be friends. So it sounds like Shapeshift has really evolved as a project and platform since it launched. And I think you said it was in about 2014 that it was founded. So tell us about some of the ways in which the project has sort of shifted gears or direction since then, and what the original sort of mission slash vision was, and now Jon, I think you just sort of kind of ran through, I guess, today's mission statement. But how has that sort of changed and evolved over time?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a little bit of a pun and a dad joke, but we constantly will say that Shapeshift has shapeshifted a lot throughout its history, and it's just truth of we've had to change and adapt a lot with the industry, and the industry itself has changed a lot. I mean, 2014 is 8+ years ago, which is in crypto time nearly an eternity. Three full cycles ago. And when we first started, Shapeshift was a very, very simple product. It was simply it was one of the first services that let you exchange one type of digital asset for another type of digital asset, and to do it very easily without giving up custody and to do it basically in a single transaction. So I know a lot of people, especially people who got into crypto in like the 2017 bull run, for many of them, ShapeShift, I think, was one of their first introductions to crypto because they were trying to do something like buy Ethereum. And we were one of the easiest and first ways that people could do that because you could just send a little Bitcoin or any type of other crypto asset and you'd get a little bit of Ethereum. And it was super easy, so frictionless. That was kind of always the magic of ShapeShift during those early years. We had to evolve significantly from that. In late 2018, we had to basically add accounts and KYC due to changing regulations. And that really kind of cratered a lot of our existing business at the time. And we had to really kind of pivot to become more of a non-custodial crypto platform. And that was what we worked on for a while. And then we basically found a way to remove those kind of KYC shackles again by more or less stopping the service of trading and regulated activities entirely. And instead, today ShapeShift has become really just primarily an interface to interact with everything you want to do with crypto, and to do that in a community-owned and free way that anyone can interact with. And of course, always maintaining that philosophy of non-custodianship and self-custody and privacy as much as we can allow that in the ecosystem. In many ways, our kind of philosophy has never changed, but our application of how we can give people services in the industry has been constantly evolving over that time.
That was really nicely put. Willy, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
No, I think Jon nailed it, and he stole the shapeshifted joke from me. So.
I mean, that's a good
it's a great one. No, he stole it from me too. It's one we all use for many years because we have shapeshifted quite a bit. But I think the important thing to recognize is that our values have remained the same. And as the industry has evolved, we've adapted and figured out better ways to basically stay true to that original vision and values. And it was really thanks to the DEXs. Like if you look back at history, when in 2018 when we had to implement KYC, the really Uniswaps and these DEXs weren't really feasible. They didn't have enough liquidity. And in 2020, once we saw these DEXs taking off, we realized that they had pretty much achieved the initial vision of ShapeShift even better. And they didn't have to require users to give up their private personal information. So we embraced that change and integrated the DEXs. And a few months after we integrated the DEXs and shut down our own trading desk, we went full DAO. And we were really inspired by the DeFi projects that were operating without any entity and that had given the community complete ownership. So now I'm really excited about that not only are we still staying true to our value and providing an amazing interface to aggregate all of these amazing protocols, but that we're doing that in a way that is completely owned by the community.
I was wondering, since you've mentioned some of your challenges you've had to overcome with, say, decentralization and KYC, and you mentioned your DAOs, what sort of on-chain tools of your own are you guys building? Because I notice, like you guys say, you support Cosmos, which a lot of more mainstream exchanges don't, mainly because they're more committed to decentralization than, say, some other projects maybe. So I was curious as to what sort of tools you're trying to build out there on-chain more.
Yeah, so we talk about how ShapeShift is primarily an interface right now, and that interface is hosted on IPFS, and you can access it with DNS routing. So we have successfully decentralized the interface of ShapeShift, but there still is a backend, and this backend is what enables. Right now, it's purely blockchain data, so node infrastructure that enables users to connect their wallet, and we provide the interface between their wallet and these decentralized protocols, which are all on chain. So ShapeShift does have node infrastructure that we've built for years. That is something that's been constantly evolving since 2014, and something that we've gotten pretty good at. But it still is a point of centralization in our current stack. So this repo is called Unchained. It's open source. And right now, both the foundation runs an instance and the community itself runs an instance of this. But we're working on FoxChain. And FoxChain will basically take this Unchained repo that packages up all this node infrastructure and has nice indexing layers to make this data quickly performant and accessible to our client. and FoxChain incentivizes a network of validators in the Cosmos ecosystem to run this node infrastructure and provide that data both to Shapeshift's interface, but also any other interface that wants to be truly decentralized and not run their own node infrastructure or rely on a centralized provider. So this includes all the different chains we support, including Cosmos. And not only will this be the final piece that's necessary for Shapeshift to fully decentralize our application, but it'll be available to any application, again, that wants to be truly decentralized. I hope is that what you're asking, Parker? I hope that answers.
Yeah, no, that answered it perfectly. Yeah, I was curious about, because a ton of projects have built on their Cosmos SDK, so I was just curious as to what you guys were doing with that. Were you going to enable IBC eventually, or? But yeah, no, that's exactly what I was curious about. Thank you.
Yeah, I can kind of add on there too. So like Willy mentions FoxChain, and yeah, that is a Cosmos SDK chain that we are building. And we've been big supporters of Cosmos and that entire ecosystem since before they even launched, and certainly since launch, just because we see it as one of the ecosystems that's really evolving decentralized tech in a very innovative way. And again, kind of the Shapeshift philosophy, that's always been something we've been a big supporter of. So yeah, I mean, I feel like Cosmos took a lot longer to catch on across kind of crypto Twitter and stuff. It's kind of caught in a wave over the last year more than it did for its first couple of years of existence, even though it predated a lot of these other chains, like the Polkadots and Solanas of the world. And I think that's because they were just so focused on building interesting tech and so unfocused on marketing that other people didn't even really know about them for quite a while. But I think people are beginning to realize all the cool things that are going on in that ecosystem. And that's a large reason why we've been pretty involved in that for a long time.
I want to double down on something Willy mentioned earlier. Let's talk about Shapeshift's great decentralization. So one of the best things about the Shapeshift DEX today is that, well, I think since 2020, it no longer requires traders to KYC, right? And for anyone unfamiliar, in the United States, KYC, or quote, know your customer, regulations require that money services businesses, otherwise known as MSBs, fulfill specific obligations as required by anti-money laundering laws, or AMLs. So tell us about this transition that allowed Shapeshift to no longer have to force its users through an identity verification step.
Yeah, so Shapeshift before had to implement KYC because we were running the trading business and we were the counterparty to every trade. And so the regulation said that we had to require users to give up their personal information, and we had to keep that information even though we really didn't want to collect it and our users really didn't want to give it up. And it really negatively impacted our trading business, and we lost a lot of our users and a lot of our volume. So the reason that we were able to get out of requiring KYC is because these decentralized protocols had figured out a way to enable two parties to trade without any counterparty risk, without taking custody of the assets, just using code. So we shut down our trading desk, and we first integrated 0x for Ethereum trades, and then we integrated Thorchain. The day that Thorchain launched their mainnet, we launched the interface to Thorchain, and we shut down our trading desk, and we stopped requiring KYC information from our users. So now you can think of Shapeshift really as like an aggregator of aggregators. We now have CowSwap integrated, so you can get the best rates for your trades on Ethereum. But in the same interface that looks a lot like Uniswap, you can also access all of the chains supported by Thorchain. So you can once again trade ETH for Bitcoin and vice versa on Shapeshift without any KYC. So this is not only is this a great position to be in with in terms of not needing to require users to give up their information, but it enables us to provide a really essential service, which is aggregating all of these amazing protocols, which oftentimes have very similar user experiences, but sometimes have a couple nuances. And that's really what we specialize in now, is trying to build the best UI UX for these popular categories of DeFi, like trading or earning yield, or soon borrowing and lending, and the other top categories. And then aggregating all of the great protocols that provide that service into one interface so that users can easily access them and they can find the best rates without having to go check a bunch of different interfaces. And furthermore, providing decentralized interfaces. right now, a lot of these interfaces, as you know, from these DeFi protocols are still centralized. And because of that, they not only often have to censor and block users from the United States, for example, or from other sanctioned countries, but also it can be also just it's risk for that protocol, as we've seen recently. And I also think it's just a distraction. I like to think that these protocols can focus on building the best protocol, and we can focus on providing the best interface and the best user experience, and also providing the other ancillary features that are necessary to have a cohesive experience. Oops, sorry. Woo, someone's knocking on my door. I think it's the maintenance people. But yeah, things like fiat on and off ramps and bridging. Right now, if you want to provide an interface and enable users to go from point A to point B, you have to integrate bridging and fiat on and off ramps and swapping. And on Shapeshift, we can provide these other ancillary features and let protocols just focus on building the best protocol and not have to worry about the interface.
That's fantastic. And does the Shapeshift support users from all regions globally?
We do. There's no geofencing currently on Shapeshift.
That's wonderful. Awesome. I was wondering also about Keepkey, which I think is Shapeshift's hardware wallet. With so many great, cold storage systems out there already, Ledger and Trezor being among the best known, why did Shapeshift opt to create its own cold wallet?
So we didn't actually end up creating Keepkey. It was created by a different company, and we acquired it back in 2017. And one of the reasons we acquired it is just because we always saw hardware wallets as a really important aspect of the business, of the industry, and that it was one of the keys to letting people, safely secure and hold their funds in self-custody, and then be able to actually interact with them in a safe manner. Ultimately, if you're not using a hardware wallet and you're using software wallets, it's just a lot more dangerous. And we want people to be able to use self-custody in safe ways. And so, we've been big supporters of really all the hardware wallets, including, the majors like Trezor and Ledger. But we also put out the Keepkey, which is a great device after we acquired it. At this date, it's actually no longer part of Shapeshift. When we decentralized, we actually sold it to a couple former Shapeshift employees who now run it. So it's still part of kind of the ecosystem, but it's no longer a direct part of Shapeshift, even though we are big supporters of Keepkey.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you for all that background. Makes a ton of sense. Is Shapeshift concerned with onboarding mainstreamers to crypto and Web3 at all? And I guess if so, what are some of the things that Shapeshift, the company and or the DAO are doing to facilitate that crossover?
Yeah, that is a big part of our vision, is enabling the masses to access all of these different decentralized finance protocols. So I think one thing that's really unique and is going really well at the DAO, in particular, is our globalization efforts. And this is something that we had tried to do at centralized Shapeshift, but we're never really able to make it work effectively. Of basically building communities and localizing our product and onboarding people outside of the United States into Shapeshift and giving them a great experience. And at the DAO now, we have a really amazing globalization work stream that is creating these communities all over the world, but really it's taking off in Latin America. And we have a growing Portuguese community and a growing Spanish-speaking community. And it's really amazing because these communities are onboarding their friends locally. And not only have they translated the app into the language, but they can also jump into our Discord and join community calls in their language. And it's just taking off and snowballing. So that's really awesome to see. And it's great to see as a DAO that, we're not just a centralized company that's putting out marketing messages and stuff, but we really have these communities being cultivated and growing from the ground up. It's awesome to see.
Hey, yeah, that sounds so great, and sounds very similar to what we're doing with our Bad Ambassadors program. And when you were mentioning LATAM, I saw Paula throwing down the emoji reacts over there. She heads our LATAM community, which is also thriving and growing. So yeah, we love to see it. I saw a couple hands up. I think Drew has a question. I think Parker has a couple. So I'm going to let my team hop in with their questions here. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, real quick, a couple of questions. The first one is on the your website. It talks about supported wallets and using your favorite wallet. And I was just wondering, when the Brave wallet's going to be listed on there, and why it's not as of yet.
It's a great.
Notice that too.
Are you a developer? Could you make that pull request?
I'm not, but I'm sure we could get you in touch with whoever whoever could do that. Yeah, but that was just kind of a joke question. But also a question on when you guys switch from being just a centralized company to a DAO. What were kind of some of the pros and cons, or like the positives that you guys experienced and some of the negatives that you experienced in that transition?
John, you want to take this one, or you want me to take a stab at it?
We can probably both talk a little bit on it, but yeah, I'm happy to weigh in. I mean, the reality is that it's numerous on both sides. Certainly, when we decided to decentralize into a DAO, it was a big undertaking, and we were one of, if not the first, centralized company to do such a thing. And there was a lot of benefits that came from that in terms of really getting the community involved, being able to make the product fully open source as a result. And even though I know we just kind of joked about that, but like what Willy just said of like, hey, make a pull request and we can support the Brave wallet is a reality now, and that's not something we could do in the centralized world. And now we have community members all over the world, and open source contributors and people from other protocols who come and do make pull requests. And like a lot of the supported wallets on there are because teams came and actually added themselves. So that was kind of one of our goals, was that we wanted to really experience those benefits, and give those benefits to the community of having a fully open source product that anyone can contribute to. And that really wasn't something we could do in our centralized capacity. So that's one of the many benefits that I think we have added. I think on top of that, we on the challenges side, I think on the structure side, obviously going from a centralized company with a hierarchy, to going for a decentralized organization where everything is really ultimately up to governance, but there is still sort of some process, these things we call work streams that kind of work on these things together. Was a challenge at first, but I think overall has become a big advantage and benefit in terms of how that works. But there is something that can be harder on, I think, a day-to-day basis. Like you don't have that benefit of having an executive team with a centralized vision. It's really up to the community to do those things. And some days that I think that makes things harder. Some days that's really beneficial and we have more voices and that makes things easier. So it really depends. I actually wrote, I'll share this. I don't know how to do these like share things on these Twitter spaces because I'm a neophyte. But I wrote a thread, actually at the beginning of the year, talking about kind of some of the things that we learned after a year of becoming a DAO, that I think really helps answer that question. So I'll give this over to Willy, and then I'll either try to share this in here or I'll link to it afterwards.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. It would be great if you could share that, John. If anything, you could just share the link beneath the Twitter Spaces link or something, and then people can get to it from there.
It's awesome that John's got a whole blog post to speak to this. So I'll keep it brief. I think you covered it really well, specifically like the trade-offs, right? Like of not having an executive team or an executive to steer the ship. I think there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons that come from that. But nothing that the community can't overcome. And that's probably, like, to put it in a nutshell, that's probably the biggest superpower that we do unlock as a DAO, is just this vast community of owners where anybody can come in and be an owner and join the community and contribute and add value and ideally get rewarded and kind of get that nice flywheel going. I think that's one of the big superpowers that we have unlocked as a DAO. And before I'd centralized Shapeshift, we had even tried to have a Discord, but the employees were all hanging out in Slack, and there was a big silo between the employees and the internal core team and our community, our users. And now as a DAO, those silos are completely broken down. We have our meetings in public. There's public community calls happening pretty much every day except for Friday, because Fridays are no meeting day. But we do have a DJ come into the Discord and play music, so that's fun. Feel free to come join us this afternoon for some live DJ tunes in the Discord. But yeah, everything's fully transparent. We have our stand-ups with engineering are public, and anyone can come in and say, hey, are there any issues that I could pick up? And so unlocking the power of the community, I think, is one of the biggest benefits that we've unlocked as a DAO.
Groovy. I was hoping you could, if we have the time to, if you could go into a little more depth regarding FoxChain and Foxcoin, that sort of thing, since you briefly touched on it regarding it being built on Cosmos SDK and hosting metadata. I was wondering if you could elaborate more on the incentivization structure, what sort of data it's holding, whether it will enable Cosmos IBC, that sort of thing. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to speak to that. And I did post the link, I think, in the where that community posted a link to the Twitter space. So if you're able to share that in here to that thread I mentioned, I think you can do that as the host up top. So people can check that out on the previous question. But yeah, so hopping in on that question about FoxChain. So to kind of give a quick overview again, like the idea behind FoxChain, and we've been working on this since the beginning of this year, really since late last year, is that the world needs decentralized node infrastructure. And what this means is that any interface needs to be able to connect to node infrastructure that is reliably decentralized and available. And preferably, obviously uncensorable is a big part of it. And we saw this become a real problem earlier this year that kind of was, not a good thing for crypto, but ironically reinforced the real need of why we're building FoxChain when the whole Tornado Cash incident happened earlier this year. And we saw services like Infura and Alchemy actually start censoring certain node data. So, you have all these interfaces that rely on these centralized services basically for node data, and it's a real big point of failure right now. And so, as late as last year, we really saw this problem, and we're trying to think of ways to solve it. And building FoxChain on the Cosmos SDK was kind of our real idea behind this, was to basically create, a blockchain incentivized network where nodes or various node providers would basically host any sort of blockchain node. So, this of course includes Cosmos nodes. Those will be some of the more straightforward ones to run, but it also means things like Ethereum and Bitcoin and any other node that any interface wants to consume, any popular blockchain, Solana, Avalanche, etc. It doesn't matter what it is. We wanted to build this kind of abstractable concept so that node operators are incentivized to provide this data, and not just straight blockchain data, but actually index data. The index is actually really important. That's something we've been working on for a long time at ShapeShift, and we have this library, this open source library that we've put out called Onchain that does a lot of this indexing and makes it just far more consumable for anyone who wants to consume that and use it for their interface. So the idea is to put out this really, decentralized and uncensorable node infrastructure that will hopefully get up there. And, our goal is to hopefully launch this, hopefully early next year is kind of the current goal, but we're working on it right now. It's one of the DAO's, big projects. And once that gets up there, hopefully it's a source for really, that data that really just can't be taken offline. It's really important. And that's kind of the thing that really allows us to fully decentralize ShapeShift's backend, as Willy talked about earlier, but also provide a service so that any interface it's not just for ShapeShift, but any interface across the world can have this source of uncensorable blockchain data. And when, ultimately it's just serving data. We don't think that should be very controversial, but it is. And that's something that we saw this year, is just that's something that can be attacked, and doing that in a right way is really important. And that's, a big emphasis for us right now, is to make sure that really exists. Because I think a lot of people just rely again on things like the Infuras of the world and don't necessarily see this problem until it becomes a problem, and then it's kind of too late. So we want to make sure there's real alternatives.
Yeah, thank you. That's fantastic. Yeah, I've been tracking a lot of, how many OFAC compliant blocks there are on Ethereum now. How many front ends are censoring certain contracts, that sort of thing. So it's nice to know there's more solutions being worked on that. I've seen that, more Tornado Cash spin-offs being developed on different platforms to try to, get around that amount of censorship. So it's really nice to hear.
Yeah, we need unstoppable networks, right? That's the whole ethos of crypto, and we're not quite there yet, right? And we do fortunately have this piece, and thanks to the Cosmos SDK, it actually helps provide a lot of the pieces necessary to create this network to incentivize anyone to come run this software and provide that data. So we're really excited about it. We're also working with Coinbase Cloud on this. They came and made a proposal to the DAO to support the efforts, the development efforts, and we'll be running validators on FoxChain. So huge shout out to Coinbase Cloud too. They've been really instrumental in helping us get FoxChain to this point. And currently we are looking at Q2 2023 for when this will go live on mainnet.
Ruby, I'll definitely keep in touch and, keep an eye on things in your guys' Discord then. And I've noticed there's also a lot of more talk about decentralizing social media or making it more censorship resistant. So it's nice to see that it's a sort of a large scale effort now across the board.
All right, escaping a bit of more of the technical questions, I want to ask something more regarding the branding. Why the name ShapeShift?
Well, it's taken on a lot of meaning over the time. And again, the ShapeShift name and brand goes all the way back to 2014 when we first built the original product. And when we first built it, it was just kind of the perfect name. It described exactly what our service did. You shape shifted from one asset into another, and you did it in a frictionless, easy way. And I think, without trying to, pipe ourselves too much or take too much credit, I think that ShapeShift was, if you look back through crypto history, was a direct influence on the kind of AMM model indexes that we see today, things like Uniswap, etc. I have to imagine had some inspiration from ShapeShift. There's certainly their interfaces did, because when I saw some of those interfaces first pop up, I was like, oh, this is us, but in a more decentralized way, and that was super cool. And so we've always we just loved how that worked. It's always just been a good brand too, because, in the early days of crypto, people would use shapeshift, as a verb. They would say, oh, I'm going to shapeshift this asset from this one to that one. So it just kind of worked perfectly that way. And it's kind of just evolved again to talk about the organization and now the DAO itself, how it is constantly shifting. It is constantly evolving to adapt with the times and how fast crypto changes. So I think there's a lot of various meanings buried in there, and I'm sure other people take meanings that I don't even know about. But yeah, it was just always really a strong brand, and the moment that we first started talking about it, it was just kind of obvious that it was the right name.
I'm curious now. It's your turn. Why the name Brave, and why a lion instead of a bat?
Jen, do you want to answer? I think I got a good answer from Brad though.
Yeah, you want to share, Guilherme?
I don't remember it though. I just remembered the concept of brave and the using of the lion being as brave has been long used as a symbol of bravery.
Yeah,
like in the Wizard of Oz, for example.
Yeah, I think it represents, a journeying into a brave and unknown new web, or the world of Web3, for example, is so new, and so the space is shape shifting, if you will, all the time. And I think it requires a certain level of bravery and courage to dive in headfirst into this world, and be an early adopter, and test out these new technologies before they're sort of like widely used by everybody else. And so I think, that's what brave means to me, although I don't know if maybe Brendan and Brian Bondi have a bit of a different story. You might be able to find, the reason why they chose that name there's a blog post I shared with the community recently, but it was written by our CTO, Brian Bonney. It's called The Road to Brave 1.0, and he released it when Brave 1.0 came out. And within that blog post, he shows like all of the iterations of the Brave logo from, its earliest form into what it is now, the lion that you see now. And I'm sure the story of why the lion was chosen is also in there. I just can't seem to remember it right now. But as for why a lion and not a bat, Brave is certainly the main product. So we are Brave software, and well, it's not I wouldn't say the main product, but it's the initial product. So we're Brave software, and then Brave software also has the basic attention token. But the bat has never been used as the animal has never been used as the symbol for basic attention token. That it's just become associated in time through the community and stuff, but it's really the Brave lion. The basic attention token is more exemplified by a triangle with 3 sides, each side representing a main party of the internet, so users, advertisers, creators. So a triangle makes more sense, although we use the animal, the bat, for fun. But I hope that somewhat answers the question. It's not a full comprehensive answer though.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting, and it makes sense. The lion, I think, is definitely cuter than a bat, and I definitely feel braver when I'm browsing the web with Brave than with Internet Explorer.
So on that note, I was messaging Guilherme to ask about the fox as well before you asked that. So the ShapeShift name, makes sense because you're, shifting shapes and cryptos and stuff like that. So what about the fox?
Yeah, so that's a good question. When we already had the name, and we were working on the branding and the logo in the early days before we launched the original website and product. And actually, one of our designers who's actually still with ShapeShift today and actually works for the DAO. He was working on this logo and branding concept, and he came up with this idea of this origami fox that kind of could actually shift into other shapes. And that was kind of the original logo. So that's actually not the logo today. The origami kind of concept is gone now. We have this more what we call the Skelefox logo, which is kind of a little more modern. But if you go back and you look at web archives or something, you'll see this original origami fox. And when we first saw it, it just worked so well. Everyone loved it. I've been involved in my time, in 20 plus years in web and mobile application and branding. And branding is always really hard. And a lot of times you go through many, many iterations before you get the right concept. And this is one of those times where I like to say we kind of caught lightning in a bottle. It was like the first concept he tried, and it was just so good, and everybody loved it. And Eric, who was the CEO and founder of ShapeShift originally, my co-founder, he was always really involved on that branding and marketing side, and he was always super hypercritical of branding and marketing ideas, but he just loved it so much too. And so everyone just loved it. And again, the original idea was it would actually fold into other types of animals to really go into the ShapeShift concept. So there's actually, if you go back, you'll find like this elephant that it could turn into and a couple other animals, but the fox just stuck so well. Everybody loved the fox. And so it just kind of stuck. And, at a certain point, a brand takes on a life of its own, and you just couldn't fight against that, even if we wanted to.
That kind of fits in with Japanese mythology. The foxes for them are thought to be able to shapeshift.
Yeah, you're a bit crackly, mate.
Yeah, your mic is sounding a little funky, Parker. Might need to reconnect. Okay, we'll give him a second. In the meantime, I see Godsen has a hand up. Hi, Godsen.
Hey, this is my first time, talking to you actually. So, hey, what's up?
Nice to officially speak to you. Welcome. Godsen joined the BAT community team recently. So, hi, Godsen.
Hi. Yeah. So I have a question, but let me start by, telling the ShapeShift team that I appreciate them like switching back to the original, principles for the project. I mean, I'm one of those people that actually used it in the early days. It was I don't know, maybe in 2016 or 17 or something. And yeah, and I was one of those people forced out from the service because of like all the regulations and stuff. And it's kind of like I didn't even know you guys are switched back to using decentralized platforms to get back to the original principles. So shout out on that. But my question is, now that I'm hearing you guys are using decentralized platforms and stuff like that, now I'm worried about MEV and flashbots and that kind of thing. So I don't know if the question is too specific or too vague, but do you guys take that into account? How do you prevent sort of the, I don't know, negative externalities of the that kind of sub industry that's brewing with the decentralized exchanges and that kind of thing?
Great question. Godsen, are you familiar with CowSwap?
No, not too much.
The CowSwap is really awesome. Initially, we had integrated 0x for trading, and we recently switched over to CowSwap as the default trading protocol for ETH and ERC20 tokens. And CowSwap basically protects against MEV. And they're also, you can get, not only can you get protection from MEV, but you can get the best rates because they aggregate both 0x and 1inch and Paraswap, which are all aggregators of their own, and help route your trade to whichever dexes and liquidity pools, or even mix of dexes and liquidity pools will have the best liquidity for what you're looking for. And they also have their own layer on top where, let's say, I want to trade Fox for BAT and you want to trade BAT for Fox, and we want to do that in the same minute. CowSwap can actually match our orders together and settle them without even touching any of the underlying liquidity pools on these dexes. And so the way that it works is basically you first have to approve the token, and then you sign a message, and then CowSwap has its own network that they call solvers that will then submit your transaction through flashbots and everything, and do it as a batch of all these different trades that are happening at once, and pay a high gas fee for this batch of trades, which will then all get settled atomically. So CowSwap is basically, rather than having to necessarily solve this ourselves, you can think of ShapeShift as just basically leveraging the protocols out there that protect users from MEV.
Yes. Well, cool. Thank you so much for answering that question. Can I ask a follow-up question? How do you feel about the proposals that are coming from Sam at FTX with front ends, like, I guess ShapeShift having to register as a broker dealer and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I have I have a lot of strong opinions on this. And it's actually funny because I saw some of this, and I actually reached out to Eric a couple days ago when this was all going on, and I was like, hey, this really deserves a stronger response. This is a really important issue. And Eric actually put out a really great blog post that I think says anything better than I can on this, that you can find on Twitter right now. If you go look at Eric Voorhees's Twitter and find the blog post, and he's having a great discussion with Sam, and it's really started a great discussion on this. So I've been really glad that Eric put that out. Eric is really good at articulating these types of issues. And I, basically, no, I do not agree with a lot of Sam's proposal. Like Eric, I'm trying to assume that Sam is a good actor here, and I think he's trying to do his best, and he seems to be open to feedback, but I'm definitely aligned a lot more with what Eric said here of, I think it would be ridiculous to treat an interface that does nothing but pass data as a broker dealer somehow. That's, I think, a ridiculous conclusion.
Completely agree. And I just posted a link to Eric's response, and definitely recommend checking that out.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I guess it's that there's like the difference between people who I don't know, came into the space earlier on, so they understand like the value of being permissionless and open source and that kind of thing, and people who just kind of came in later, trying to make some money, which isn't a bad thing or anything like that. But there's like this, you can tell the shift between like the the generations of crypto users and innovators. But like the problem is when these guys come up with these regulations, they don't understand how it impacts people from. So like I'm as part of the the Brave and Back community, I'm the community contractor for Nigeria and Africa in general. But like just it's all the KYC platforms that everyone has to use will request you to use like a passport if you're not like someone from the Western world or something like that. But the thing is, like, most people in my community don't just walk around with they don't walk around with passports or whatever. Let's say it kind of it cuts out people from certain communities. It's not even like it's not even like people are trying to be scammy or whatever. They just don't have the documents that everyone will have generate. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and this is one of the, again, those, I don't, and I think some people, to your point, who've gotten in kind of just to make money in the last couple of years don't necessarily always understand this ethos. But like when we first started building, before crypto was anything but Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin kind of evolved into crypto, one of those ethos was this idea of banking the unbanked, right? The ability for people who do not have those services, do not have bank accounts, in various countries, they don't have them. Part of that reason is because they don't have things like passports or ID docs that banks will accept, so they can't even get access to these services. That this should really be available to everyone. And one of the points that Eric makes in his article, and I shared it here in the space above if anyone wants to read it, is that one of the big problems with something like OFAC is that it doesn't just sanction individual actors. It sanctions entire countries, entire countries full of innocent people. So, Iran is a really good example of this. One of the larger countries in the world, a country of 83 million people, is entirely banned from all of these various services. Anyone who has to comply with the OFAC, which is basically all U.S. companies and persons. And that's a really unjust outcome, to basically cut off because of basically a government that the U.S. doesn't agree with, and maybe there's good reason for that. Instead of just sanctioning those government actors, they sanction the entire country. All of these people, these brave people that we hear about who are, protesting in the country, these brave women who are protesting for, their civil rights and humanitarian rights, are blocked from interacting with this new economy for having done nothing wrong just because of political reasons. And that's not okay. And it's something that people in the space should actually speak up against. I'm not, of course, suggesting to anyone that they don't, follow laws that they need to follow, but we should absolutely speak out against such things because that's not okay. And that's not a just outcome for anybody.
Yeah, good points made. And you have to like consider the, I don't know, the gender justice aspect of this too, with a place like Iran that's currently going through a revolution. You have to think of the women in those places who probably would have used this technology as like the one avenue they have to solid individual financial freedom that are now blocked out of it completely because the United States government and the Iranian government don't get along. But that's a whole like different subject for another time. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for doing that and staying true to the principles. Just keep doing that. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for those great questions, Godsen, and for this is a very important discussion, and I'm glad we're having it. So yeah, thanks you all. I think BATearn had a question too.
Yeah, on a bit of a lighter note, who had the fox first? Have you and MetaMask?
We had it by a good 3.5 years. Not even close, to be honest.
All right, thank you.
And on that note, we're over time, but this has been so great. Thank you so much, Willy. Thank you so much, Jon, for being here today and for sharing all about ShapeShift. It's been great, hearing about the long journey, especially in this space, to see a project have such longevity. is just so impressive. And, it's easy to see why, and I think ShapeShift, the name, just fully embodies sort of the path that you've been on and what you've been able to do and how you've been able to achieve that longevity. So yeah, on that note, thank you again. Thank you to everybody who asked questions today. Drew, BATearn, Guilherme, Parker, Godsen, really wonderful, great discussion. And we hope to have you guys on again in the future. This was really informative and I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you all. Great hanging. Really appreciate the questions.
Great hanging. And everyone, by the way, jump into the ShapeShift Discord. They have a live DJ today, I think this afternoon. So definitely go check that out. And we should do that in the Bat Brigade. That would be so much fun. But anyways, yeah, hop in, join the ShapeShift Discord, follow them. Check out our pinned tweets here. We have the tweet by Eric Voorhees. We have Jon's thread that he mentioned earlier and the Road to Brave 1.0 blog post where you can see the evolution of the Brave logo and probably the choice for the lion. So check all of that out and we'll see you guys in the next Twitter Spaces. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.